Okay, good afternoon to some of you, good evening to others, and good morning to the rest of you. I'm John Weber with GForce Life Sciences, and today's topic is preparing for the EU MDR in a pandemic. And we've generated, it's generated quite a lot of interest from our clients and our candidate network, and we hope that everyone on here, whether you're live or watching the recording, pick up a thing or two during our session today. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We want this to be as beneficial for you as well, so there will be a question and answer portion along the way. Just enter your question in the chat feature on the right. There's a little comment icon that can open up the chat feature on the right. You can actually enter your questions in there and our moderator will review and upload. What's nice about it is all of the attendees on here can then click like or upvote it, if you will, if that's something that's also of interest to you. And what we'll try to do is take the questions with the most popular results to, like I said, be beneficial for all of you, and ask our panelists a little bit about them and provide you some more information. Also, if you do need to leave early, that's quite all right. You've already registered. We are recording this and we're going to send this out to you in the next day or two. So let me head on over to that. First of all, we know that some of you sent some questions in prior to this and during the registration. We've collected those as well, and we'll be uploading those to also upvote. If you have any questions that come up after the webinar, you can certainly email me, and my email is here. And we'll, like I said, we'll send those these slides and the recording out in the next 24 hours or so. Just a quick introduction. I'm John Weber, president of GForce Life Sciences. We're based in Chicago. Our reach is around the US and in Europe primarily. We match highly targeted consultants to executives' needs in life sciences, but we actually have 4 models that accomplish what our clients are looking for. We do so through a traditional staffing model. We also work with subject matter experts and small teams in a more of a functional service provider model. We have a thriving executive search division, which places senior level permanent employees at some of our clients, and we also conduct audits globally. We do well over, we have a capability of doing over 1,000 annually. We do this across the biotech space, pharma, medical device, of course, and diagnostics. What we try to do is we try to blend the speed of a staffing firm, the experience, subject matter expertise that you would traditionally see in a consulting firm, along with the deep targeted search you've come to know in executive search. So that's a little bit about us. These are some of the services that we provide across the spectrum. And more information can be found on our website, gforcelifesciences.com. So with me today, I also have Kashyap Malkan. Kashyap is the principal of Malkan Solutions. He works as an EU MDR consultant. He also conducts audits, performs training and certifications for clients globally. He provides these companies, he helps us, excuse me, in setting up sourcing, supplier quality programs, obviously EU MDR work, and a number of other things. Also with us is Armin Beck. Armin's the CEO of Suntrix Consulting. He's also the co-founder of Vasaflow. Suntrix is a consulting firm that's focused in the quality, regulatory, and clinical space. He's been working with the EU MDR, the medical device regulations for a number of years now, and we are happy to have you both with us. So welcome Kashyap and welcome Armin.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much, John.
Absolutely. So just briefly, there's no denying, guys, that the pandemic's forced companies to change the way that they're doing business. But obviously, we've got to continue to make sure each organization complies with the upcoming EU MDR and IVDR. So some companies, as we know, worked on this early on in the transition phase, while others had more pressing demands. at the time, and they're just getting now to the task at hand. So obviously we know that not complying is not an option if you want to continue to sell product in that region. It's not usually a great sales strategy to stop selling product in a large portion of the world. So we hope everyone here picks up a thing or two today in your journey to checking these things off your lists. And let's just jump right in. So Kashyap, maybe perhaps you can give us a brief overview on the MDR and IVDR, since we do have a variety of attendees today.
All right. Hey, thank you. And just do a little sound check here and nod your head in the audience if you guys can hear me. Okay. Good nodding of heads. Thank you. I couldn't actually see anybody, so I assume you guys can hear me. So my name is Kashyap Malkan. I'm really happy, to be part of this, and John and the team, Armin. Great resources in terms of both the regulation, working together, and the experience cumulatively between the three teams that we are discussing this with. So I'm really honored to be here. And then from an MDR perspective, thank you for registering. I appreciate all the clients of ours that have joined. I know our NDAs probably prohibit us from talking about your names of your clients, but I appreciate that, and also our team members, because of you, we are able to represent a lot of your work, your experiences, and most importantly, your mistakes in a webinar form like this. It is intended to be free. A lot of this is our experiences and opinions based on what we have seen. So please ask questions, engage in dialogue. We have exactly an hour to talk here. We probably won't be able to cover everything in the 123-page regulation. But it is also a good intro into do's, don'ts, make mistakes here, don't make mistakes here kind of conversation. So Armin, I'm going to lean on him for all the hard questions to answer. Armin smiles.
Yeah, I'm always more than happy to help. However, I'm not the greatest talker, so Kashyap can do this, and I'll just fill in if there's any question what I need to answer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Armin, for the word of confidence.
Thank you. It's a pleasure working with you.
Absolutely. So, and then let's just circle back here quickly to the MDR. Now, this is live. We have a lot of moderators in the back asking questions. John said, it is your time to put us on the spot, right? I mean, eventually this will be live streamed, available. You will have the opportunity to ask follow-up questions, but always good to see maybe somebody else has your question as well. So appreciate the engagement. And then, of course, the questions are not really live, because once you ask them, people have a chance to upvote, and wherever we have a pause in our conversation, we'll be able to take those conversation questions as well. So yeah, and there's no off limits. We will mention that if question takes too long, like Armin said, I talk a lot. I won't take up all the time sucking up all the answers. So that's just my sense, and thank you. All right, jumping into MDR. MDR stands for Medical Device Regulation. Used to be called MDD in the past. Why did they change the name? They needed to rebrand it. And I think the big differences in layman's terms is, at this point, we're looking at Brexit, which is the big thing in the European Union right now. A lot of new technology comes out in the med device space. So in the US, the FDA regulates med device products, pharma, several other aspects of protecting their population. Same thing with the European Union. There is a lot of scrutiny that goes in there. When companies decide to trade across the Atlantic into Europe, they follow the MDR. And this is the basic version of what you're talking about. If your company is choosing to sell product into Europe, MDR is a required compliance piece of information. There used to be a lot of this May 21 deadline that we reference here. That used to be because a lot of companies were compliant to the old standard MDD and had certificates as such, which are coming due for renewal, requiring you to be compliant to the new standard and the regulation. Again, lots of Google help on what is the difference between MDR, MDD, what's changed, what's not. We'll cover a little bit of that here in our conversation, but not necessarily, an extensive list in any way. Again, if you have a specific question or something that's pertinent to you or your company's interest, of course, reach out. John loves getting email from strangers. Okay, John smiles. And then, and this applies to both med devices and in vitro devices as well. May 22nd on that. Does COVID change things? Absolutely. This all was due back in the 2020 timeline. COVID's been extending a lot of this. And then there's a topic here about how they just recently introduced the fact that they can do, notified bodies can do remote audits. We had another webinar on doing remote audits as well. So a lot of technology discussion on that one. So yeah, that's a lot of what we do. If you go to the next slide. This is a high level understanding some of the terms. It's in English, but remember, Europe has multiple languages. You'll hear my accent a little bit. It's a little different than John's, and then of course Armin's accent. He's European. There's a different accent there, but these are really the MDR requirements that apply through all the countries in the European Union, and the EU Commission being the biggest body that guides a lot of that. Member states are the ones that are actually complying to these, and if you want to sell into that country. The good news is you comply with EU Commission requirements or MDR, you can sell in all those member states. You have to use a notified body, which is based in Europe mostly, to have you review your product and conform assessments, and they do audits on you. Notified bodies are few and far between. They are on a backlog, as we hear recently. Getting in line and getting in a queue and having the ability to have the notified body audit your research or your new certification or new product introduction into the EU is going to take some time. So planning is key. It's a lot of program management when it comes to releasing product into the European theater. And finally, manufacturing and operators. This is you guys. This is, you make the product. There is a person that actually registers your product called an authorized representative. Somebody imports it. That could be the authorized representative, not. You could be your own manufacturer and authorized representative by having a local, presence in Europe. And then, of course, your distributors, the guys that sell the guys or gals that sell the product to the consumer, hospitals, etc. So those are your cast of characters here. Armin, any interesting facts from a European perspective?
Well, I have to make one comment to this when you was talking about the European Union. We also have to say that some countries in Europe who not belong to the European Union are also adopting the MDR. For countries like Norway, Switzerland, they are not part of the European Union, but they're still adopting the MDR. So the countries who will require the MDR are actually much bigger than just the EU.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, if you're compliant to EU and some of the other states of the world just adopt, hey, you're good enough for them, you're good enough for us. But the union doesn't oversee it. That's a good point.
And another thing, what is typically that the world is divided between CE mark and then the entire US FDA regulation. And most countries in the world accepting the CE mark. And the CE mark means now you will only get it when you are in compliance with the MDR. So this is also very important for your revenue or for your business. That's when you're complying to the MDR, going in one of the biggest medical device market that you also can sell in other countries, included where you come from India. They accept this actually too. We really need to make this clear that this is not just to the European Union, that's give you the entry to the entire world.
Very good, very good. Well, thanks for that overview. Let's proceed here. So maybe Armin, you want to tell us a little bit about the new rules that we have to adhere to?
Yeah, I mean, I can chime in. I always would almost start as Kashyap start from. However, yeah, there's clearly new rules. I mean, one is a stricter previous control of high-risk devices via pre-market scrutiny mechanism with the involvement of a pool of experts at EU level. What this basically means is, if you have a high-risk device, before it was your notified body who approved this, he gave you the CE mark. Now it's a way for the European Union to have a control panel with physician and expert to really understand your device. This is actually similar with class 3 devices in the United States. When you have to go to a PMA, you're meeting actually with a medical or expert panel in the FDA to figure out, is your device actually able to reach the market. So Europe have adopted a similar system with this one. Reinforcement of criteria for the designation and process for the oversight of notified bodies. I mean, we had big problems in the European Union with a lot of notified bodies. They have not really done their right job, what they should have been. So the European Union reduced the notified body pool by about 60%, and it's very difficult right now for notified bodies to get accreditation to be a notified body. And with the MDR is in a way that's also the European Union will make the notified bodies responsible for their action. That means when a notified body gives you the CE mark and they have not to 100% controlled your device, or you have make mistake with the device, the notified body can also be prosecuted, and that's a very important thing. There's different devices what came in there, and there's new risk classification for in vitro diagnostics. I always like here to give one example about a reclassification, what seems very minor, but what will affect a lot of companies. They reclassified sterilization trays from class 1 to 2A. What this means, that's for your sterilization trays, you need a notified body for involvement to getting CE mark. A lot of people have forgotten this, and that's why the classification is very important. You really need to look in your device if you're getting in a higher classification, especially when you're going from a class 1 to a 2A. You basically cannot sell it anymore, and this needs to be crystal clear. And if you not have done this, you don't have too much time to get the CE certificate.
Yeah, that's good to know. Kashyap, anything to add here?
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the things, and Armin, I know we've faced this, right? But one of the things that comes up quite a bit is technology changes quite a bit, and it's been changing more rapidly now. There's a lot of this thing called remote fill in the blank, whatever, right? There's a lot of things going on that are remote medicine, remote diagnostic, remote consultation with clients, software, a lot of in vitro stuff, nanotechnology, pharma, combo devices. We get a lot of, initially companies sometimes just reach out and ask us, hey, I make this, is this even considered a med device or an in vitro device, or worse, both, because it is sometimes unclear. A cosmetic provider reaches out to us and says, hey, this makeup I apply on, all the pretty faces to make them even prettier, is that counted as a med device? And the answer sometimes are, it depends. It might actually be some level of regulations that apply. So, and they get stricter, and that's one of the big ahas that people forget with the new rules, right?
That's actually an excellent point. I mean, when you see a huge difference between the MDD or the MDR, one of the new rules in the MDR, that you as a manufacturer have actually to justify that you have a medical device. There's a clear definition now of what a medical device is, an accessory, and you need to justify this. And there's a lot of devices out in the market where companies, from a sales point of view, thought it's a medical device. They classify it as a medical device under the MDD. This is impossible right now. And this is another thing what we have to be very careful. It's really a good point to bring this up.
Here's a few more things on the transition period we can chat about. Kashyap, why don't you take this one?
All right, so the EU has decided to go E. Well, I guess it was some level E with the UDMED database, but essentially they want everything electronically filed, and that's going to come about. At least in the last 3-4 years, I've heard UDMED as a database coming out every new year. I believe now the new date is later this year or next year, and that keeps going.
Let me chime into this one. I mean, I just heard a couple of days ago the new date for the UDMED database is now May 2022. So basically 1.5 years from now.
Right.
And I mean,
so
they try to relate this. I mean, since many years, because the database is not ready. It's a good thing for us.
It's a good thing, but at the same time, our clients and our European authorized reps and distributors freak out because they don't know what that means to them. So absolutely, a big change, right? Because a lot of
absolutely. I mean, when the database is running, I mean, all of your companies, all of you guys have to understand. A lot of stuff in your technical documentation will be in the database, and this will be visible for everybody, including your clinical evidence. So there is no hiding anymore.
Well, and that makes it public domain. So, authoring this information, I think that has become a key thing. Traceability, that has become key. Again, it's the interest of protecting public health. And then now, there's another side of this database that brings to life that doesn't exist before as much, is tracking of your devices, right? When a med device was sold, there was production records that indicated what was produced. Then slowly we transitioned to the ability to track to who you sold. Now, with the digitization of a lot of this, it's not only that, it's the responsibility of all these parties. We talked about the cast of characters earlier, to track it all the way down to the user. That involves, making sure that there's traceability of the product manufactured to the ones imported into the European Union, into essentially where it was sold, into what the patient is, including things like if it's an implantable device, like an implant card. Why is this a big deal? Because every company is responsible for it, and it adds a whole new dimension that didn't exist before. Armin.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really challenging time on there. I mean, the implant card it's a big thing if you're doing implants. It's a lot of other changes come on, and I think it's a must for what we have to do now. But overall, I mean, for the safety of the patient, is really a good thing. I mean, especially with orthopedic implants, we know we had a lot of problems lately with DuPont implants. So it is actually a good thing that we really can track, or actually the patient can also track the implant, where it's coming from. And when something happens, I mean, he can register, he can go directly in UDMED. This is really a fantastic idea, in my opinion.
And so, I'm going to cover the next 2 points in kind of this statement here. The regulation is literally, you can Google it, right, and get it off the EU website, and 123 pages of interesting reading of EU law. But, the bottom line is, when it comes to implementation, that's where the rubber meets the road with some of this. When you have to file the clinical evidence that goes with the device, right? It's not like the European asking you for 26 different languages of translation, but there's 26 different languages of potential labeling, potential IFU use. So that's where these are the little intricacies that manufacturers that are trying to sell into the European Union overlook or oversee, and then consequently get into trouble, from having the product seized or stopped or recalled, which is very expensive, as you can imagine. I'll use a live example about, a pharmaceutical medical product that went into the European Union, and it had English as the label. Sounds pretty reasonable for English-speaking countries, but the local distributor decided that, hey, we require here that we need to put new labels on, and they just literally stuck labels of their own in their local language, only to find out that the gap was not only that the label was not controlled, nor did they have any traceability or erase the traceability between the product coming into the European Union and what they were selling. The IFU was still in English, the instructions for use, which obviously caused concern and of course an issue. So little things that product manufacturers start making and distributing into Europe start causing issues that are more bigger scale. And again, what I just explained was maybe one paragraph in the entire big regulation. So that's where some of these scary things I find Armin make a big deal, and that's where we really bring in the experience sometimes, and I feel that we hopefully add value, of hey, watch out for this, right?
And Kashyap, there's one thing what you're saying. I mean, yes, everybody can go read the MDR, and we all hope we understand this, but certain points are not clear in the MDR as well. We also need to understand that Europe works as a state of the art. So there is no grandfathering. So for all of us, we also need to understand that products, what have been certified to the MDD or other standards, now have to fully comply to the MDR. You cannot just say, well, like it's like the 510K process. You just think, well, I got my 510K 25 years ago, and I can still sell this. No, you cannot. All products which needs to be on the market by this year in May needs to be in compliance with the MDR. And this, regardless if you still have an existing CE certificate, you still need to be in compliance. You have to updating your quality system. You have to update it, your technical file. Well, this is an important thing, and that's what I mean. There's much more what a lot of people don't know, and yeah, you can go and read it, but there's a lot of things they are just not clear.
Right, and then of course, Europe has open borders, so when a product gets into the European Union, you got to make sure that it's compliant in all those countries, and then of course there's feedback mechanisms for issues, product issues, recalls. Traceability, we call it field vigilance and marketing surveillance of how is your product doing there. So again, not a trivial thing when you start selling product. One of the biggest things that our clients give back and say, hey, we wanted to sell to Europe, sounded like a big, huge market, and the cost for us to sell there seems to be very high. And I'll touch on that. It's because it costs money to bring it in, do all the due diligence that goes with it, and the volumes are your offset, right? So it's very important to take that into consideration as a business case. There's a lot to be said about how you deploy it, and I think there are some good questions too. So yeah, we'll cover some of this stuff as we talk more here.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you, gentlemen. I want to keep moving along. Just I'm popping up just for a second. I'm seeing some good questions come in. Remember, there's a question mark comment box on your right. You can jump in there and you can upvote questions that you find more interesting than others. You can also submit your own to our moderator, who then can publish them. So let's go to the next slide and talk a little, just briefly, about Brexit. There's 2 slides on this. We don't have to go through every bullet, just a high-level overview of what's next in the Brexit medical device space.
So let me take this one because I get asked this question in English a lot, right? As an American-based company, we get a lot of questions because it's preferable that in Europe you get a European-based authorized representative that hopefully just speaks English. It used to be England. So we had a lot of AR authorized representatives that were using British companies. And then when Brexit happened, they started scrambling because, hey, Brexit means no England in the European Union. How's that going to work for me? So that was a big aha for a lot of companies because now they had to find alternatives. There's really a Brexit, as most people know from history, took a long time to decide whether they were leaving or still staying. And then when they decided they were leaving, it took them a hell of a long time to leave. So that confusion has prolonged some of the transition. So usually that's a lot of big discussion. And then what does that mean for selling into England? I think that's the other aspect of Brexit that a lot of companies deal with, because the British market is pretty big. What does that mean in terms of, hey, do I comply with the EU regulations and can I sell into England with that? Guess what? I think, Armin, if I remember right, they still haven't decided what England's going to do, right? I mean, they're still in the, hey, I'll still follow EU stuff, but EU doesn't want us to take ownership of it. Armin, I don't hear you.
No, I'm fine.
So, all right, and then the second part of Brexit was that, you know, you got to be part of the EU slash how do you look at England or Britain and the European Union? You know, just a best practice, believe it or not, that I can share that some of our clients and customers and companies are doing here is you essentially have two protocols, so to speak, of selling into Europe. One is selling into England and one is selling into the European Union. Because now that Brexit is done and the rules are gray, it's better to have only one portion of your procedures and protocols be updated or not current, and the other MDR stuff be current with your CE files and your technical documentation across Europe, because that way at least the company can sell to the majority of the European Union. And as England and Britain actually decides this is how we want to comply, or med devices to comply, you know, that is something that they can bring in. Now, of course, regulations happen. Somebody watching this webinar a year and a half from now, this will hopefully be old news. But you know, there is always a little skepticism when it comes to what do I do to meet everybody's needs? Well, that's not going to happen, you know, and your company will end up spending a lot of time and effort not doing much. So just a food for thought that, hey, make sure you're compliant to MDR, and then you know, England can come along, and you can ship goods in there, but make sure it's whatever the British want.
So what's changed?
The internet sales. I don't want to talk about too many companies, which company is really affecting this, but there's one critical point to the entire internet sale, and that means, and this is actually coming back to the economic operator. Let's see any shipping company selling your product from the United States directly per internet, or transportation company to Europe. The internet sales company or the shipping company, or however that is, becomes actually an economic operator. And they are actually the importer. And this is also another thing, a new regulation in the MDR is the obligation of the importer. And forget the word importer. The importer actually means it's a legal entity of you. They are responsible that your product meet all requirements for the EU MDR. That means they have to verify your technical documentation. Let's talk as an example about Amazon. If Amazon is selling or bringing like any of your devices from the United States to Europe, they are an economic operator. They are responsible for the product. And that will be a huge problem, because I don't know how, if or how Amazon can do this. So for all of you guys, you may want to look for some different opportunities, or for a different importer, what you declare on the label.
I want to add one more thing about arbitrage. A client of ours used to use the Amazon chain. We'll just use that big company as a name here. They used to have an Amazon sales channel to sell their product, and they used to have it in English, sold for America, in use by America with an American electrical cord so that it had the connections here, right? It turns out that some wise entrepreneur out there decided that this is very useful in Europe too. Why wouldn't a European consumer not be able to use that? And this was a B2C situation where the company manufacturer was selling through Amazon directly to a consumer. And it was a med device here in the US governed by the FDA. Some entrepreneur decided that it would make sense for them to take this and sell it in Europe. And, hey, so big deal, just plug it into one of those converters of 220 volts, should work, no issues. Now, instantly, the person doing that becomes, as Armin said, an economic operator. And that's where there's a little gray line. They open their own Amazon, or I believe whatever equivalent sales channel in Europe to sell it without knowing that they are essentially now have to be compliant to the MDR to buy it. This company here in the US manufacturer was seeing great sales till during one of our internal audits, we found, hey, you're selling this and they are doing this selling. Did they ever contact you for your technical documentation? Did they ever contact you and say, here is our traceability and consequently market surveillance, vigilance reporting information for your product based on what I sold in Europe? And they go, wait a minute, ostrich look here, where if I don't know, I should be okay. I don't think that quite works exactly in that situation, because as a manufacturer, you're responsible for controlling your supply chain and your product supply chain down to the traceability. And now it was being sold into Europe, consequently causing a new relationship with the consumer in Europe, requiring regulatory coverage.
Right.
The story ends very simply. They shut down their Amazon business. They only now sell through distributors that are authorized and have control over. And that was a big change and shift on how they did their business. So again, then showed economically it worked out okay for them, but it was still a big risk that was potentially mitigated.
Yeah, it's a problem, and I think a lot of people have not recognized this. And really thankful for giving a really practical example. It was really good, very helpful.
All right, so this one, I'm going to really cover this in a two different sort of ways, Armin, and you can tell me how these notified bodies behave in Europe, because from last I heard, notified bodies are supposed to audit a company and make sure that they are compliant and following all the rules and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. And like everything in COVID, it's on a backlog, or you don't get a response fast enough. What's going on in Europe?
So it's actually, I mean, just speaking about a couple days or a few days ago, the European Union announced an remote audit plan. So they have now a guideline, and for notified bodies and for companies, that's actually notified bodies can make remote audit. And this is another thing. I know a lot of us, not myself, who was hoping during COVID that the MDR will be postponed for another year. But now with this announcement from the European Union that they have now a guideline for remote audits, I think MDR will happen this May.
You think that companies are ready for remote audits? I mean, I wrote a blog the other day about it, and we talked about remote auditing in our last webinar. And just judging from the questions and our experiences doing remote audits, it's not the same as doing an on-site audit. So
it is.
Companies ready for this?
Well, I think they have to be ready. This is the whole thing. I mean, there is no option to say I'm not ready. Well, if you notified body say I have to do a remote audit, you don't have the equipment, you're not ready for that. The answer is very simple. The notified body cannot do the audit, and you will not have a certification. You cannot sell. So all for the campus it's a thing. get ready. I mean, there is no excuses. Well, we cannot do it. It doesn't work this way. So, and I don't know really what's the remote audit is. I mean, the guidelines will be available soon, and we have to look into this. So maybe this can be just one topic in one of our next podcast or shows.
Yeah, I mean, remote auditing is never. If it's anywhere without a guidelines, it will be dump a whole bunch of procedures into an inbox or a shared drive somewhere, and somebody is sitting there reviewing it. And I don't know if that necessarily shows compliance, or it can cause a lot of gaps. You know, one of our clients spends a lot of money and time just having somebody read and reread and re-review and answer questions about their procedures that go through that. I mean, that adds a little bit of an overhead, yes. But also it allows for those offline reviews to take place where you're not spending time, you know, showing somebody around in a conference room.
I mean, I personally have done remote audits for different reasons. And I always said my personal feeling is an on-site audit is more effective and much better for the company and for yourself. I mean, if you walk over a manufacturing floor, you see a lot. If you have some robot or some camera just showing you the manufacturing floor, you don't see really much what's going on. So that's my personal opinion, and I hope we are done with COVID anytime soon and really going back to a normal audit world, because I think it's important, the interaction with the people directly. I mean, Zoom, whatever is available, it's great, but it's not perfectly made for audits. But this is but this is the only thing what we have right now. I mean, and we have to deal with this one, and we cannot find excuses. That's what I try to say. It is what it is. Let's deal with this one.
Well, you know, the thought here is this. You know, and there's a saying in the U.S. where they have opened Pandora's box, right?
Yep.
You have the FDA throwing out guidelines on remote audits and how to do them. Now you have the European Union, which is, in our opinion, a lot slower to adopt something new, is also throwing out, you know, hey, we can do remote audits. You know, maybe in the future, who knows? This might be hard to undo because there will be, you know, backlogs that have to be overcome. There will be shortages of auditors. There will be shortage of qualified personnel within a certain theater. So I don't know. I have a gut feeling that once it's there, there'll be multiple reasons people will use remote audits, from, hey, I think we have an outbreak of pink eye in my facility, so you shouldn't show up, to, you know, hey, we are a small risks manufacturer. Maybe you just do it there and save your travel money.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, from the opposite side, with traveling and spending money for audits, I mean, that this going around already since years, especially if a company have to do a supply or have to audit their own suppliers. I mean, my experience, a lot of companies, well, if the supplier is too far away and it's cost money, well, we don't audit them. Is this a good practice? In my opinion, no, because you really need to figure out critical supplier makes your product. And I'm sorry, I go a little bit off topic, but in the end of it, an audit needs to be on site. And I believe a lot of people, especially notified bodies, will go back to this. We have to audit a company on site. If the company doesn't want it, of course, for me as a company, I don't want to have an auditor in my company. Of course not. But it will come back. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah. Good points by both of you. Let's keep it moving here. We just a time check. We're about a quarter before the hour. We want to finish one or two more slides and then get into a few questions. Some good questions are coming in here. So let's talk a little bit about some Class 1 manufacturers here. Kashyap or Armin.
So the postponement aspect of EU MDR compliance until 20 for some class 1 manufacturers. In my opinion, it's kind of difficult to really see what's going on and what class 1 manufacturers are. The difficulty here is that class 1 manufacturers do not have a CE certificate. By class 1, it's a self-declared device, so you don't have any CE certificate from under the MDD. Regardless if you can sell your device or not, you have to be in compliance to the MDR by May 2021. So this is my opinion about this, because there is no MDD anymore. And I don't know, Kashyap, if you have different opinions about this one.
You know, the class 1 is, you know, the lowest possible, less stringent class available. Every
Right.
manufacturer tries to go there. If FDA equivalent or any other is any history, a lot of companies will start here, I think, and then, you know, justify try being in class 1. I think that over the next 5 years, 6 years, whenever the MDR regulation has been, you know, sustained, then there'll be a deeper due diligence each company will have to do and say, oh, wait a minute, are you really a class 1, you know? And I think that might change a few things, but initially I think that you know, just being able to use those new definitions might be also a good thing for a lot of the manufacturers.
Right, and I mean this is difficult, and I have heard this from many class 1 manufacturer. Oh, we don't have to be in compliance because we can be in compliance with by 24, and if you already produce product already by 25. And I always said, well, that's great what you're saying, but your quality system, what we're saying in a slide, needs to be in compliance to the EU MDR, and also your technical documentation, especially the general safety and performance requirement, needs to be updated. And this is what I try to say. This entire discussion about this 2024, I think, is a little bit misleading, in my opinion. Because in the end effect, yes, you can sell your device, but you still have to follow the regulation. And this is what I have hearing from a lot of companies. Oh, we don't have to do this. And the answer must be no. You have to be in compliance, but you still can sell your product. And this is a huge difference.
Absolutely. Thank you for addressing that. How about the UDAMED update?
I think we discussed this before already, where we said it is postponed to 22. That's absolutely correct.
Right, and as a computer science guy, I'll tell you that, you know, this is one big, massive use case list that you have to comply to all these countries' requirements, multiple languages, multiple types of devices. So it is a complex program, and in any IT implementation, it never goes right the first time. So even on May 2022, for some magical reason, that actually happens. And I think they're already talking about phased releases anyway. There'll be bugs, you know, so don't quite transition out of your paper system or your e-system into UDAMED and expect everything to work 100%. I would plan on a phase in, phase out as UDAMED rolls out. IT companies will definitely help you transition, but yeah, that May 2022 at some point used to be back in 2019 or even earlier. So it's a complex system for sure.
And I don't know if IT really helping. I mean, I don't know how the UDAMED database will look like, but in the end effect, it's a data entry. And whenever this UDAMED database is ready, is for a lot of manufacturers. If you have 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 products, it's a lot of work to type in all the information. That will be a huge task or a huge work, because when the UDAMED is effective, you have to register your products before you can sell them. So you need to plan for a huge team to just typing in information.
Good tip. Very good tip. Okay. Any more on the UDAMED here, or did we cover that here? Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So we have reached the inevitable question and answer period, and there have been some good questions that have rolled in. I'll give Armin and Kashyap a chance to catch their breath. Kelly's been moderating them for us, so thank you to the talented Kelly Rubach for that. Appreciate that. What's your first question that you have for us, Kelly?
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for submitting your questions. We'll try to get through all of them. The first one is, sterilization cases being upclassed to 2A is new information to me. Can you provide the reference in the standard that applied?
I believe this one we have to, unless Armin got the references memorized, I think we'll have to look that one up and get back to that individual user, because yes, sterilization is a big deal.
I don't know the exact thing, but you will find this reference in the classification annex in the MDR. And I don't know exactly which number it is, so this one is not too much to read. If I can look up what exact clause it is, we can maybe get back to you per email.
I'll just chime in here. If you, I know that you wrote this question in here. If you want to email that question to me, I can circle back with you with an answer from Kash and Armin directly. Next, Kelly.
Implant cards need to be translated to the applicable member state languages. What if the member state has multiple languages? Due to size limitations, I can't see including more than one language per card.
So let me address this as a techie guy more than implant cards is probably not going to be, if I were ever implementing this in today's 2020 world, it would not be an actual card. It would be some kind of a digital verification of sort, maybe, because it won't be like your old immunization record book where you carry a little booklet with, you know, all your immunization things. I think it will be more something that will be linked to the UDMED database, maybe an ID that allows you to, you know, show that you have an implantable device or traceability of such, and certain do's and don'ts, like don't walk through a metal detector or something like that. I doubt that it's going to be like a 50 different language card that says, you know, your driver's license is valid in all these countries. So I could be wrong. Maybe they fail and they don't implement a fancy little electronic system, but I think that's what that will eventually become. The important thing on the implant card is, though, it has to be traceable back to where the product came in and back to the manufacturer and consequent use.
Let me chime in one thing to make a general answer to you about languages. There was always the requirement for translation of labeling, and the implant card is part of your labeling. So when in whatever country you are selling, your labeling, including implant card, needs to be translated to the requirement of the member state. Let's see, you want to sell to Germany. Your labeling needs to be translated in German, and in some instances they would accept English. If you're selling to France, your labeling needs to be translated in French. There is no way around about this. Regardless, I mean, that's the system. If you attack implant card, you need to understand from labeling, you need to translate every piece of labeling, not just the implant card, every label, the instruction for use. And yes, if you're selling in 50 different countries, you have 50 different languages, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Thank you for that. Kelly, what else do we have on tap?
Our notified body told us that we do not have to submit applications for all of our existing devices that are currently covered under MDD. They told us we can maintain both the CE certificate and the new MDR certificate and still sell existing and new devices into Europe. Is this true?
Let me let me clarify this. When you have an existing CE certificate, yes, you can sell to the European Union so long your CE certificate is not expired. And I mentioned this before in different instances. But you have to be in compliance to the EU MDR, regardless of your certificate. But you can sell. The answer is true.
Wait till it expires. That's when the problem starts.
Yes. So let me elaborate about the expiry date. Let's say your expiration date is, let's say you have a class 2B device, it's certified under the MDD, your CE certificate expired a year from now. Well, do you have a lot of time? No, you don't, because with the new reviewing process, which takes an average about 12 months, you want to submit already today for your MDR certificate. Guys, you have to be very, very careful about this little loophole. Oh, I can still sell under my CE certificate. You need calculate about 12 months before your expiration date to submit your new technical documentation.
Perfect. The next one is, to clarify, we have to have QMS procedures, MDR compliance, and implemented implant cards, GFPRs, SSCPs created by May 2021. We just don't need to provide them to our notified body until our technical file audit, could be 2024.
No, it all boils down to when your cert is valid or not. It's simply put as that. If your certificate is expiring and you let it expire, you can put all that stuff together and your notified body is backlogged and your cert expires, you still can't sell into Europe. That's kind of the whole point of this whole thing, is you get in line quickly, get in line first, and get in line with full documentation up front, so that you don't let your permission to sell in Europe, your CE cert, expire. Whether it be an MDD cert, whether it be an MDR renewal, whatever it is, you need to get all that done. Unless there is an edict that comes along later on that says you can sell into Europe without a CE cert, which I don't foresee that happening ever.
Right. So the other thing is you have to be careful when you mention about the audit. If you're selling under the CE certificate and your notified body will auditing and they will figure out that this specific device or technical documentation is not in compliance to the MDR, they will withdraw your CE certificate and you cannot sell. So don't see this as a free parking card, the existing certificate. You guys have to be very careful, and I know a lot of people see this as a free parking. If something happened, you have to take your product off the market.
Well, and you might have to recall the ones that you sold without a cert.
And this one. Because then you don't have a CE certificate anymore, and you have to recall all the product. That's absolutely correct.
Very good. Okay, Kelly, we have time for one more question. Gentlemen, we have 2 minutes to, that's my cue for telling you to be short and sweet. So Kelly, what's the last question? And then we'll wrap up.
If I'm a contract manufacturer, would I be considered an economic operator?
So let me answer that very quickly. The answer is depends on whether you're selling directly or indirectly into Europe. If you are selling your product, a contract manufacturer normally does not sell their own product. They sell it to somebody else, and the answer would be no. Yeah, that somebody else that you manufacture for is the manufacturer of record. You're just contract manufacturing a component. But it all depends on who's selling the product into Europe.
But typically a contract manufacturer would not be considered as an economic operator.
John, you're quiet.
Technical malfunction. There's always one of those. It's usually me. We've reached the end of our hour, and I wanted to thank you both, Armin and Kashyap. You were insightful and enthusiastic about the EU MDR and IVDR, and we hope that our attendees found a few tidbits to take away from here to help you and your teams now and going down this path. If you have any questions, as mentioned during the Q&A and at the top, please send an email to me. My contact information is here and will be sent out in the slides along with the video in the next 24 hours or so. So again, thank you, gentlemen, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much, John. It was my pleasure to join.
Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good day.